current as possible to what's going on and what you can do about most of these things. I'll say this, that we're in perilous times, and it's important for you to take whatever precautions that you can at such times until this thing finally collapses. When it collapses, we'll see what type of resuscitation. Resuscitate. How they say?
Resuscitate.
Yeah. Well, how they going to resuscitate or reset the system?
Reset the
system. It's not going to come back in the same form.
Reboot.
And it's never going to come back to the level that we were used to it.
Right.
And even to them, it's not going to. They got one plan, but they're going to find out that after they crash this, they think they're going to benefit under that the corrupt system, the new corrupt system they have. They won't even get what they expect out of that. Come out there on the good side, you know what I'm saying, as far as the benefits that they got out of this. So because Yahweh is there to
throw a monkey wrench in.
Confusion. He said he mocked them in their calamity, so they try to reboot this thing. Well, this is going to be a two-part. I'm going to go through this. The first part of the lecture is going to deal with the universal principle of 40. You heard people talk about like blood, water, spirit, 40. You go through the charts on this, but they only take it so far. They don't understand how it's appropriate today and it's in operation. I mean, today's and now. Just say in this great empire, the United States, they do know, people do know, it's economists, let's say, well-known or well-educated people, do understand that,
It was up a minute ago.
oh, that's because of the, I'll do that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that, they do know that there's an existence of these 40 and 80 year cycles in America, and it works repetitiously. And they know every 80 years in the history of America that you have a major depression. And we're coming up on an 80-year cycle here. This is the great big one, and those that are known have already prepared. And everything works in cycles. You know, I said, people, there's no cycles in the business. I said, listen, the fundamental things that exist within the body, especially the woman's body, she is ovulation every what?
21 days.
Every 21 or 30 days. It's on a what?
It's on a cycle.
It's on a little cycle. So I mean, the sun, it flips. It's on a cycle every what? 11 years. It's on a cycle. So you have the rising and the what? Falling of the tide. That's a what?
Cycle.
That's a cycle. The time itself, you give a 24-hour day. That's a what? Cycle. So everything is a cycle, and there's nothing outside of cycle, some form of cycle.
The weather is a cycle.
And the weather is a cycle. Fall, winter, spring. There's constant repeats itself. So when they say that these things don't exist, that's deliberately, either they're ignorant or they try to misinform you. As my brother-in-law says to a lot of the brothers in court, he says, one thing we can say is that the white man definitely, you're a perfect example of the miseducation of the white man to you. So, of the educational system. And that's what's happening. That's not only for African Americans, but for the whole American consensus. They're functional illiterate. And the pastor should know that what's in the Bible, how it's current. The only thing they can say is Jesus wept. So, we're going to begin with this principle of 40. And that you have a 3-page outline of this principle of 40. And anybody that's done any research in the Bible, they know that this principle of 40 is constantly being made manifest. Whether we talk about it in terms of the first age with Noah, with Moses, you come all the way down through the ages, you find the prophets with Jonah, and you come all the way down to the fulfillment with Joshua, the 40 years in the wilderness, and tearing on earth 40. You just constantly have these 40. So we're going to go through that real quick, and I'm going to play a short tape. I'm going to have, well, that's a problem. I'm going to have to have.
What?
They have to, well, I'll think about that. Got a problem here.
You can use your iPad. We can use it now because I know where the video's ported to. I didn't know it before.
Okay,
Let's try it out.
But what I'll do is Yeah, but I'll think about that. Yeah, let me get through this here first. So, what we're gonna do is start out with, you have that handout. And I'm gonna go through it real quick. And most of these things you have is that, well, first of all, we're gonna say that it is a universal principle, that we have here. And, the principle of 40. That it's a universal principle, and we're very conscious of it existing. As we say, 40 is a universal principle, and what it represents is a temporary change from one state of condition to what? To another. And we're going to find out, so how do we know that? Well, the only way you're going to know that, you have to go back and look at the examples that Yahweh has set up throughout the scriptures to understand what takes place. And we'll start out here with Moses in his experience. As the Father said his division, he said Moses was a writer of the first 5 books of the Bible, and the way it's situated, the way it's laid out, having this vision, Dr. Kelly said in 1931, he said, listen, he said, when the book is structured, he said you had the Exodus out of what? Egypt first before you had the what? The Genesis. And in reality, the book of Genesis should be included within the book of what? Exodus, at the 24th chapter, you know, I think it's 16 verse, somewhere in there. 16, that this whole chapter should be inserted into Exodus to show forth what you're reading in the book of Genesis is a whole vision that Moses is showing a condensed explanation of everything that happened to prior to him up to his current time. That's basically what it is in a nutshell. Okay, now that we got that understood, so when Moses, when they came up out of the land of Egypt, through the divided waters of the Red Sea, and they came back to this mountain, Moses makes 3 trips into this mountain. This is where the 3 trips into the mountain, it reveals to you what the principle of 40 represents. People go to the flood water, spirit 40. Somebody should say, what does it represent? And they say, this represents 40. I mean, you ain't told me nothing. You just went through something. It represents a change. And when we look at the principle of 40 as it's laid down in the scriptures, you can see it. Okay, very briefly, when Moses went in this mountain here, and Yahweh appeared to him, what happened was, in the 24th chapter here, he goes up to this mountain with his minister Joshua. This is after the 70 elders of Israel, and Aaron, they have the body. They see this Elohim form, this form of a man, this spiritual body, which is the Elohim form. So what happened? They went in this cloud and he stayed 40 days and 40 nights up here. And people say, what's 40 days and 40 nights? That's basically a month and 10 days. A lunar month is 10, 30 plus 10 is what? 40. So he's up there for over a month and 10 days. That's a long time to get. So in the end of this cloud, it's like he's in the spirit realm. And he's up there for 40. So pick it up there, I think it's there in the 24th, what did I say? 24.
Exodus 24 and 16.
Okay, now when he entered this cloud with Joshua, when the transformation takes place is, prior to that, you had all types of myths of how Yahweh created creation, how God created creation. It was not confirmed or Yahweh said, okay, now it's time for me to reveal exactly how I created this creation by a pattern. This is what Moses saw in this verse. So first of all, now, he's going to remove ignorance from Moses. Because remember, all his education was done where? In Egypt. They did 40 years out here, so he's 80 years old. Now he's taken up into the spiritual realm and has been shown step by step sequentially on the educational process on a spiritual or metaphysical level. So he's first shown the creation of the world, this tabernacle, and he's shown the inner workings of it, and he showed the days of creation. So we're picking up there. Then the second time, then we're just going to jump real quick. When he went up there, after throwing down these stones, he went back up again. And then he stayed another 40 days and nights. And this completes the process. Because after he comes out of the mountain, this second 40 days, wham, his face began to what? Shine or illuminate. So showing forth now, he has a complete change. Because he has spent a total of how many days in this mountain? 80. So, okay. So get me 18, Exodus 24, 18, and Exodus 34, 28 through 30.
You want 16 first one?
Let's make it 18 and we just jump there on the right time.
Exodus 24 and 18. And Moses went into the midst of the clouds and gat him up into the mount. And Moses was in the mount 40 days and 40 nights.
Okay, this is when he finally comes down with his first tables of stone. Now, these were thrown down. This is where he writes the account of the creation of the tabernacle pattern. Now, he goes back up in the Exodus 34th chapter. See, 34, 28 through 30.
34, 28. And he went, and he was there with Yahweh 40 days and 40 nights. He did neither eat bread nor drink water.
Okay, now he's in here. Now remember, he's taking off the body. He's in the spirit realm. So the body is laying down. He's been transported. Just like people that have out of body experiences, they see the body laying there, and they're somewhere else. So the body is in a like a hibernated state. You see what I'm saying? Where basically most of the metabolism of the body is actually what slowed down. Because I don't understand it. Well, how do you have a bear that goes into a hibernation for almost what?
3 months.
3 months.
All the winter.
All winter. And they went in there and put monitors. So how you exist without your food? They found out that all this life functions.
Life support system.
They came on down to this minimum.
Almost like
almost close to death. You know what I'm saying? Very low. And that's what Moses is up here. That's a type of showing what happened to Moses up here as far as the body is concerned.
Right.
So continue there.
And he wrote upon the tables the words of the covenant, the 10 commandments. And it came to pass when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tables of testimony in Moses' hand, when he came down from the mount, that Moses wist not that the skin of his face shone while he talked with him.
That's a change. That's a change now. See, a change in what? State in what? Condition. See what I'm saying? Now he's changed now because he has this, as we would say, a halo or an aura around it that would terrify the people that was fleshly and carnal, because they couldn't understand what it transformed in terms of Moses' conscience. This was a type to show forth that he was illuminated with the Holy Spirit and brought up to the purpose of Yahweh at this time. Okay, now, as we understand, so we have these 2 40-day principles here. Moving on, now we can go back, as Moses was shown, then, according to Moses' account in the book of Genesis, then as that age ended, from Adam down to the flood, it rained 40 days and what? 40 nights. There you go. That's a change from one age, an age of darkness, confusion, and men's heart was continually what? Darkness of evil. So Yahweh said, I got to take out 8 souls here in this heart to make a preparation, and they're going to make a change of 40 days and 40 nights. Give me Genesis 7 or 4 or Genesis 7:12. That's the 40 days and 40 nights. Well, why do you spit? Because I still don't believe it. Will you explain to me why you surrounded 40 weeks and what? In the womb for 40 weeks approximately. So again, showing forth that principle of 40 and how important it is. And after 40 weeks, you make a change. You know what I'm saying? You definitely make a change because you were in your mother's womb. You had buoyancy. Now you're going to come out and crawl and walk under the influence of what? Gravity. You never experienced that. Neither have any of your senses. You didn't see. You could smell or you could hear those type of senses. But as far as actually tasting, none of that stuff, none of those senses were fully exercised until they were what?
You were born.
Until you were born into this realm, and then finally will begin to experience this realm. Okay, would you get that, please?
Genesis 7:4. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth.
Okay, so that's for 40 days. You have the children of Israel's migration out of Egypt. They stayed out in the wilderness how long? 40 years. See what I'm saying? Before they made again a change from the wilderness, well, actually was supposed to stay out here 40 days. It was just a transitional period from Egypt to what? The ultimate destination was Canaan's land. Then eventually, and a change in leadership from Moses dying here, where Joshua took over. And how many years was he in the conquering of Canaan's land?
40 years.
So that's your 40 there.
Yes.
See what I'm saying? So then you got to change here, you got to change here. So you're going from one state of condition from the holy place to the what? Most holy place. See? So then, now all of this has to be fulfilled by Yahshua Messiah.
Yes.
See, in the fulfillment of that, is when he comes in, to initiate his process, to initiate him and his ministry. See, he's water baptized by who? John the Baptist. See, and then he's anointed by the Spirit. The children of Israel led by the cloud. He goes out in the wilderness to fulfill this. He goes out in the wilderness and stays 40 what?
40 days.
40 days. So you get me that in Mark 1:13. He's out here for 40 days being tested of the adversary, and the children of Israel were out in the wilderness being tested for 40 years. 40 years out here, and most of them died out here as a result of that. When he triumphed over the devil being tested out here for those 40 days. Okay, so he gets it there, and then jumping ahead, then after his death, burial, and resurrection, we know that he tarried on earth how many days? 40 days before again he made his ascension, a change in state and condition, and 10 days later was outpouring the Holy Spirit. So there we understand, now we have the principle of 40 there. So get me, what I say, Mark 1:13, and then Acts 1 and 3.
Mark 1 and 13. And he was there in the wilderness 40 days, tempted of Satan, and was with the wild beasts, and the angels ministered unto him.
Okay, with the wild beasts, he had no fear out of being tested of the adversary. See, for those 40 days and 40 nights. And then he began his ministry. Now, we come into after his death, burial, resurrection. Now give me Acts 1 and 3.
Acts 1 and 3. To whom also he showed himself alive after his passion by many infallible proofs, being seen of them 40 days, and speaking of the things pertaining of the kingdom of Yahweh.
Okay, so it's talking about the Messiah's death, burial, resurrection. When he resurrected, he appeared to his disciples in the spirit form that had the ability to put on a fleshly manifestation, physical body. Just appeared, he had that power. They put it on and take it off as he did at the Mount what? Transfiguration there. So what we have here, again, a change there, going from the physical to the spirit, and then after those 40 days he ascended into heaven, and 10 days later they received the Holy Spirit. Now, so we understand the principle of 40, and we have this, you have a chart there where we kind of illustrated the threefold pattern there of the various instances of 40. And then, we already mentioned the 40 days and 40 nights that the 40 days was Nineveh was. So we understand the principle now. Okay, so we have here the unity of the Spirit, the Father, the Word, the Holy Spirit, the threefold, everybody talking about in Israel's children of Israel's migration. Just sum it up. In Egypt 430 years, they spent 40 years out here for disobedience. And then Joshua led in 40 years of what? Conquering Canaan land. Then we have the Messiah 40 in his ministry being baptized by the Holy Spirit, spending 40 days and 40 nights out here being tested. And then he tarried on earth, I said 40 years, which would be 40 days. Okay, then we come down to the United States. Its whole political system, which that we are under the maniacal system that has really controlled the money and credit. And most people do not understand that we have had 3 previously central banks. And it each existed, the first 2, should I say, they existed for 20 years. And they went bust. See what I'm saying? And that 20 correlates with the high priest serving what? 20 years. 20 years. So, okay, then let us read here as we move down.
What years were those? 18 something?
We're going to go down and get it right here. Have somebody read here. See, the principle of 40 with the history of the United States Central Banks is right there. See, so showing forth that everything, even the devil, has to operate by this what? By the pattern. There's nothing outside the pattern. So now we take it into modern day. We're not, as the father said, we ain't leaving back in the Bible no more. See, people say, well, that's a myth. Okay, we're leaving the myth. Then why is it existing within the Federal Reserve System? The devil created. Okay, the principle of 40 with the history of the U.S. Central Bank. Will somebody read that?
The U.S. monetary history.
That's on page 2 of your handout. Okay, read.
It's full of the principles of 40. Few historians understand why this number is reappearing throughout American history.
They understand that we see it's 40. It's all over the place. But they don't understand why. Because it's an operation of a divine what? Pattern. If you understand the 40, then you can harmonize it, as you say in that book on page, what's that, 1, that book, Outwit the Devil, the last principle, the last two principles in there, the last principle, the end, was harmony. And after that, Yahweh drops a hammer on somebody. Okay. So, Noah had to be harmonized with the spirit of truth for 120 years. And after that 40 days and 40 nights, if you wasn't harmonized, then you experienced the 40 days and 40 nights. But you drowned it, and then Noah made the transition into the next what? Age. Okay. So, you have this, somebody please read, go ahead.
The first two U.S. central banks that were established by Congress each have a lifespan of 20 years.
Now, how you like that? Go ahead, read.
The first two banks total 40 years.
The first two could tell 40, it's a change. So, we're going to read on.
First Bank of the United States from 1791 to 1811.
Okay, 1791, and we know that George Washington was sworn into the first Constitution in 1789. Okay, read on. From 1791, go ahead.
And then, was it 1792 when the United States was?
17, go ahead.
1494. Okay. North America. So the first Bank of the United States, North America, that's 1791 to 1811.
Right, go ahead.
The second Bank of the United States was 1816 to 1836.
Okay, so the second one was 1816 to 18 what?
36.
Now go ahead.
After this principle of 40, there was a third system of the United States.
Okay, now this gives you a total of what?
40 years.
40 years for the first two banks. United States Bank, it gives you a total of 40. Okay, it says now after this principle of what?
40.
It's like a change. Okay, read.
There was a third system of United States National Bank.
There was the third system was a system of national banks. What's one that became what?
National.
Many. Many was that was set out the who? Go ahead, read.
So the National Banking Act, 1863 to 1913, set up by President Lincoln to help finance the Civil War and issue greenbacks that were not backed by gold.
Read.
Finally, the Federal Reserve Bank was set up in December 1913 by Congress. Currently, this December 2013 will be its 100-year anniversary.
Okay, so now this December coming will be his 100-year anniversary. We'll see that there's no statute limited when they made the bank, gave the bank its articles of to create the bank. There was no time limit on it. But technically, right now, the Federal Reserve Bank is broke.
Right.
Because they done took him and bought all this bad debt from the what? These banks. He gave them a good stock certificate, good federal, treasury notes, excuse me. And they're definitely broke. So the banks had all this bad debt and toxic debt. Now, if they got to get rid of the toxic debt, what do you think in your body? You got to get rid of toxic waste. So Yahweh says in that system. So you see then, this is 100 years. Okay, read on, Petty.
40th principle with U.S. gold. Coins Act of 1792 passed by Congress set standards for the U.S. coins, which are real money. 40 years from 1933 to 1974, FDR outlawed U.S. ownership of gold. President Nixon restored gold ownership of gold, or should have been U.S. ownership of gold.
Okay, so it's approximately 40 years when 1932, when Roosevelt came in 33, he had this gold, he confiscated American gold, etc. The whole thing from 33 and 34, to pass in various legislation removing gold out of the monetary system, out of the bonds, and etc. So 40 years later, this act, they did what? President Nixon did what? He restored the gold. Restored, allowed Americans to own gold after 40 years. See what I'm saying? Okay, read on.
Okay, Brentwood Agreement and U.S. dollar standard, 1949. 40 years after 19...
Okay, 40 years, okay, you had 40 years to this, and you get what, 19 what? 89, we'll come back to that, but the start of it is 40, okay, read.
Okay, so 40 years after 1931, England got off the gold standard.
Now, England got off the gold standard in 1931, which was the same year Dr. Kelly had his what? His vision, go ahead.
In 1971, President Nixon took the U.S. off the gold standard for trading among nations.
Okay, so that's a 40 year from 1931 to 1971 is 40 years. So that got us off the gold standard. That means that what that means in terms of 1971, nations that had a surplus, if we traded with them and we got a surplus, in other words, in the excerpt, they sold more to us than we sold to them. Just say they had a $10 million surplus. Well, they, at that point, prior to 1971, they could say, you know what, we don't want no paper, we don't want American dollars, we want what?
Gold.
Gold. So everybody was taking gold, the gold was taking so much gold, everybody said, you know what, I want my gold too, we ain't dealing with paper.
Mhm.
And then they said, wait a minute, the gold was leaving the United States too what?
Too fast.
Too fast. So we gotta close this little mother down, you know,
Mhm.
so we ain't gonna have nothing. So this is what Nixon did 40 years after, England had got off the, the gold standard. He did the sales what, same what? Same thing, you had that principle of 40, go ahead.
Mhm.
Okay, 40 years later, from 1971, 2011, gold hit an all-time high of 1921.
Okay, so then 40 years later, from 1971, when, Nixon took us off the gold, to the 40 years later, gold hit a high of $1,921. And then silver hit almost $50, 40 years later. You see what I'm saying?
And when you had 1921, what did that add up to?
Okay, where's it at?
4.
Oh, yeah. Okay, right. Exactly. 4, exactly. Okay, read on, Penny.
Okay, it says, QE 1 and 2, printing money out of thin air, caused gold and silver prices to soar. When President Obama came into office, silver was, I don't know what it was.
I forget what it is. But anyway, it rose 4 times.
Mhm.
So, 4 or 5 times from previously. So they started printing what? Money.
You said it was 18?
About
$18.
About $18.
About somewhere in there.
Yeah. So what you see then is that basically, again, the whole process is, that just shows you with the money. Now it shows you, every time you had a 40 years, you had this change. Okay, then somebody said, you know what? If there's also a 40-year cycle in cultural changes. It's a social phenomenon. They find them all over. So I'm going to go, let me see here, 40 years, open that here. Okay, you have here, that website, I have the website there, and we'll just briefly go through this. We won't go through all of it. Because after I do finish this, then we're going to go into the benefits of, we're going to make a switch into health. We're going to go into the benefits of coconut oil. Then the next time I get up, I'll do later sangria and I'll talk about chlorella and spirulina. I'll do a little touch on blue-green allergy. Okay, so we talked about the banking system, and we'll go through that, and we'll see real quickly here. It says the 40-year cycle on cultural change. The U.S. is due for another cultural revolution by the younger generation, perhaps including a 5th great awakening. So they know that these cycles work. There's over 40. See what I'm saying? So you got people that examine the various phenomena. So here they say this is there. There seems to be a 40-year cycle of cultural change in American society. Well, why? They say, we don't know. We just tell you that this phenomenon exists. Now, understanding that everything has to operate by this what?
By pattern.
By the pattern. He goes through. He says now, he says the classical exploration of generation types and cycles, the 4th term. This is an excellent book to begin. He says identified 4 generations, 80-year cycles. Now, you look at 80-year cycles, that's 40 times what? 2. It's still a 40-year cycle. The basis is of profound crisis and transformation. That's what we told you. All you do is look at the scriptures and you say, okay, you always say, you don't have to have no Bible. Just look at your society. So you don't have no excuse for not knowing about no 40. See what I'm saying? So in 1781, it ended the revolution and established us as a what?
As a nation.
Okay, 40 years later, we get what?
We go to Civil War.
See, we get a civil war here. That's a 20-year cycle. I mean, is that 20?
That's 80.
That's 80. Excuse me, 80.
Okay.
80 years we get the Civil War. Then 80 years later, we get what?
Global War.
Global War and the end of what?
Depression.
We ended the Depression.
Wow.
See, they said, listen, I told you about 2021. The 2020 says that 2021 ends of what?
End of the Savior state.
End of the Savior, and the debt base what?
Property.
Prosperity. We told you that was Jim St. Clair. He said, and he was his family was very high up, and he said that they intended to reboot the system in
2020.
It's the reset button, boom, you reset everything. You reset the system. You have another what you call coming up. you know, when you reset the system, everything you had in your computer, when you hit it, if you don't save it, it's what?
It's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone.
You said that. You better have an automatic what, Don?
Automatic backup.
You better have an automatic backup. And so we told you that if you don't have a backup, as far as your dollars and stuff, it's all gonna be what?
Gone.
It's gonna be gone. See? And Yahweh did the same thing with the, you know, that whole age, only 8 people were saved. That whole age was what?
Gone.
Gone. So it's only gonna be a remnant. So then we go to say this. He says, in terms of cultural revolution, there seems to be sweeping thoroughly every 40 years, or some 2 generation cycles within the longer cycle. It's not an exact cycle, but consider these dates and eras. So they can see that 40 principle. It's not exact, but it's around 40. That's close enough. See, and this is all in your notes. We went through it. We talked about here the first February 1740, and then you went what? For about 40 years, you had the American Revolution. Then in 1820, you had the Second Great Awakening. And you had the Civil War, 1860, and it comes all the way down. So it's basically, again, it shows you, you can check that out with your notes when you get home and study it. But again, it talks about the principle of 40 that you have, and it says from 1970 to 40, 2010. This takes us, you know, to 2010. We told you that that's another way of getting a chance when the whole doggone economy gets what? Collapse. Right. You see what I'm saying? So that we have, so covering that, then we come up to very quickly, then we come up to somebody get to the 12th chapter of Revelation, where it says, I saw the great red dragon. So if you got a dragon in heaven, you gotta have a dragon what? You gotta have a dragon on earth. Somebody gotta represent the dragon, because in heaven people say, I don't believe no dragon. You gotta be very smart type people. And they gotta be very what? Ruthless and cunning. And everybody that does know that the Chinese are very what? Cunning. And people that deal with it say, but the Chinese are wise and they're always cunning. You see what I'm saying? So, we're gonna have here, we talked about that earlier, that we get that the Chinese red dragon, or when China was became communist in 1949. In 1949, they became what? They became communists under Mao Zedong. And how many million people did he kill?
Oh man.
Well over 100 million people.
Yeah, millions.
So you know he's a big devil.
And
the first thing you look at their money, they got him on there. They consider him a hero. They done kill up all them folks. That goes to show you, it's all, the Messiah said, be wary of the men that the world think what? Highly of. Okay, so what you have is 1949. That's when the Communist China was recognized. And then we go to 40 years later.
89.
That's 19 what? 1989. See, that's Tiananmen Square. That's when they had the revolution. They thought they was going to change the dragon. Listen, go somewhere and sit down. Do not, it says, who is able to make what?
War speed.
Just go in and just sit down. Don't activate them. Don't activate them. He'll go off. And he went off and drove them tanks over those and just wiped them out.
Squash the whole deal.
Squash the whole deal.
They were ink spots.
Now, that was, but remember we told you that 1989, 1990, this is already this year, what happened here is you had the Japan stock market did what? It collapsed, and it collapsed. What was the height, approximately the height of the Japan stock market? 40,000.
Yeah, 40,000. Right.
It was almost 38,000. They run up about $40,000. 40,000 on the Nikkei, and it crashed all the way back down to I think about 13 or 14, I think 8 or 9. It's totally collapsed. 90%. The real estate market, boom. Right. Everything collapsed. See, then you had that's the stock market crash. You had you had the Russian what? The Russian Kremlin collapsed without a bullet being fired. Boom, the whole thing collapsed on them. See what I'm saying? 3. And then 3, we had the Berlin what? The Berlin Wall. That's the second wall that divided East and West. It came down. Right. And Reagan said, take down the wall. You understand? That's what they did to Jericho or this River Jordan.
That's right.
And the divide. And all by a pattern when Yahshua was resurrected from the grave. It said that the veil in his temple did what? It was torn, and that was an end.
Yes.
And see, 1960, if you add this up, 4-year era gives you 19 what? 93. This is a 4-year era about the death of the Messiah. I mean, the birth of the Messiah, which didn't go back 4 years. It's 4 years short of the Messiah's birth. That's on the Gregorian calendar. They do know it's an error. Then you got to subtract 33 years of the Messiah's what? Life. That's not a part of this age. And you get 19 what? You get the 1960s, which is 4 times 490, which shows you that this is a what? That's an end. And these are all the manifestations of an end that we got there. So then, getting back to Red China, here we are at 1989. 40 years would be what? What? 20 what? 29. The question is what's going to happen to the great and what they project is that they said by that time China would be the largest economic power on earth with a great army, and we'd be second fiddle. Somebody gonna get what? Somebody get hurt because this Anglo America don't want to give up no what? The people of power they don't want to give up no what? No power. And the Chinese say, you know what? We just ain't gonna be subject to you all anymore, and we think we co-equal with you. And at that point you have a what? A war. So that goes to show you what's happening. Now get me that, and then in your scriptures, Revelation, it says the 10 horns, 12 and 4, it says the 10 horns on the beast, they had no power with the beast, and they had to reign with what? With one what? 1 hour, and 1 hour prophetically, the way you get that 1 hour, it's not 60 minutes. You say, no, he ain't talking about that. You don't understand Yahweh's time. The way you determine what an hour with Yahweh is, you have to understand what a day of Yahweh is. See, and then we can arrive at that, and then we basically 1 hour, 1 day with Yahweh is 1,000 years. That's 2 Peter 3 and 8. Okay, now you do a little bit of algebra, because you know one of our days is 24 what? 24 hours equals 1,000 what? Years. This is an equivalent. If you're going to take 1 hour, you divide 24, you get all this in school, you just stay awake. 1 hour is equal to what? 1 hour is equal to about 41 years. And this is approximately what? You just round it up to what? 40. See what I'm saying? So that's 40. That's 40. So that means that in 1989, we've come 20 years is what? 2000 what? 9. So we don't use up half of the 20 years. So we got about what? About what?
20 more years.
So we got 20 more years left. So a little over 20 years left before they say China becomes the superpower of the earth. And that's what Revelation says. And prior to this, China had no what? Power. So really, again, within 80 years, it shows you they became a major what? Superpower. And we don't even know how they got it. They got they said they got $1 trillion. We said, $1 trillion we gave it to them because we buy everything, we gave the technology, we gave them money. Everything, because our greedy corporations wanted to make money, but they didn't know that they were empowering the beast or the dragon to turn around and bomb their butt. That's what it's all over with. See what I'm saying? Now, get me
Revelation 12 and 4.
Read.
And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth.
Okay, now there was a great war in heaven. Read that. Read that.
7. And the woman fled into the wilderness. Okay, and there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was this place found anymore.
If there was a war in heaven, there got to be a big, great war with a dragon. So we fought many wars, but we didn't fight war with the red dragon. So that is the what? That's to come.
And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent.
Oh yeah, he's going to be defeated. They ought to be defeated as a reflex, but not by who they think they are. Okay. Now jump over to, the 17th chapter, where it talks about the hour. And there is a DVD by Texas Mark. It says, "Die, America, Die." And what it's about, I'll play about 5 or 10 minutes. Okay, check this out.
Revelation 17:12, someone.
Revelation,
About the hour.
Revelation 17:12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast.
Now, when did that hour start?
40 years sometime.
And it says it's 40 years. Well, you gotta know where it started and had the manifestation of the 40. And there's only one nation that has gotten their power in the last 80 years, became a superpower. Who is it?
That's China.
That's China. You know, that's the only one in the nation. See what I'm saying? See? So we do know that those are parts of the scriptures that need to be fulfilled. So we know. So I'm going to play about 10 minutes of that, about this. Then we're going to flip the script and we're going to move back into health. And while she's up there, just give you an introduction to where it goes. One of the most powerful oils that exists. Yahweh takes the simple and most compound things to compound the mighty. Now, one of the greatest, should I say, chronic diseases to come, especially amongst the baby boomers. What is the #1 disease that's coming? They say it's going to go off the chart. Alzheimer's. See, and that's the destruction of man's cloud that is most what?
Right.
Dementia, all of that. And so they don't know what to do with it. And they will tell you that there's no cure for it as medical science. And anything that they created is such that we're going to look at some of the side effects in this as we go through. You have a lot of documentation. It's in Natural News. Naturalnews.com. That's NATURALNEWES news.com. Mike Adam is the editor of that. It's extremely a good site for all types of health information. Exactly. It's probably the #1 site you want to check. And it goes through a number of products.
Can you write that on the board for us? Yeah.
It's in your notes there.
Oh, is it? Okay.
You have it there. We're going to go through it, some of the notes there. I printed out about, my wife said, you don't have that stuff you don't print it out? And I said, well, we'll just show you. So you have some of the stuff. And the way it is that Paula was talking about Jeanette upstairs, Mr. Stewart's wife. Her best friend has Alzheimer's. She said, oh, she can come back. She said, really?
Lack of knowledge.
It's a lack of what? Lack of knowledge. And the stuff is so simple, and it's been proven and documented. And in fact, the pharmaceutical industry was so simple, they decided to go out and copy it. And try to make a synthetic drug with it, but when they made a synthetic drug, it was so what? Powerful with it what? Side effects. People were having seizures. You can go all types of crazy stuff. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. Okay, yeah, you'll bring that over because everything stopped. Did everything stop there?
You need a
okay, then.
you just need a.
Just need to open it up.
Yeah, just need a.
I hope you see over here. Yeah, take the power cord off the tape deck here. Just pull that thing out of the back there. The tape deck. And then bring that over here, and we'll watch 10 minutes of this. You will recognize how. Let me say this. To understand what's happened, let me say this. To understand how America was destroyed, you have to go back and look at how Babylon, that's another lecture, maybe we'll talk about it next year, is that when Babylon was destroyed, how should I say it? Let me see it now. When the old Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar, when it was destroyed by Medes and Persia, Babylon had these very thick walls. I mean, these walls were like 80 feet high and about, humongous. So you wasn't going to come in there. No. And it would take you just, years for them to try to take the city. What they had was traders within the city. And what the traitors in the city decided to do to the great city of Babylon, when Cyrus the Great came to them and conquered, he made a deal with the treacherous traitors inside. He said, listen, leave the gates open. I don't know where it's at. Well, what Tex Mars said basically, we'll find it out. Oh, here it is. What Tex Mars said is that, so they opened the gates and they came in and took the city without a shot being fired. Right. But then what they did to us, America was a great industrial power. They shipped all the technology where?
Overseas.
Or China. So China could never have come a major power in 80 years. It probably would take them 100 years to develop all that stuff from scratch. Yeah. India too. I mean, you just can't develop a PC and you walking around in a camel now. Get real. Yeah. In that case, if you let the brothers smoking up blunts and walking and standing in the corner, they should have divided it or invented a patent for what? All types of patents.
That's right.
Something, you know what I'm saying?
They were in the cloud.
Yeah. And let me say this. The way the situation is, the way Yahweh has it now, see how everything is operating by a pattern. Just deviate. They have gotten so sophisticated, they say now, for us to do things, all my information is stored in the cloud. See, and the new address now, the new address that everybody's having on their mail address is the iCloud. Now, all your computer programs, eventually what they want to do, you won't be able to buy any like Microsoft and all that stuff. You won't be able to buy a program. You just rent it because it's going to be where? In the cloud. It's going to be in the cloud. You just bring it back down. Why is it? Where's everything else? Here. In the cloud. Here in the cloud. Where's Yahweh? He's a what? In the cloud. That's what I'm saying. They gotta go by what? They gotta go by a pattern. Right. This stuff ain't no joke. But somebody set up and had a fantastic tale of ideology. Now we're going to go through this pretty quick. I'm only going to show about Don, can you come because I'm going to have to delete one of these programs to go through the system. But anyway, that's what we have here. Now, as I said, I'm going to make the switch into the coconut oil. And we're going to run this through that, just give you a highlight. You have all the information there. There's 3 handouts that you have there. And I'm only going to show 10 minutes of that. We're going to run pretty quickly. The handouts you should have there is coconut oil. Go to what page is that? It should be after the Venus.
You want your coconut oil sheet?
No, I'm saying in your packet after the Venus, the first article should be coconut oil. Here's what you need to know about the amazing rejuvenation and the healing oil. See, you should go to that, and we'll just go to that in about another 10 minutes, and we'll run through that, and we'll be through. You can pass that out, but I mean, it's just a repeat. So, what you have today is something that you can take and use practically. Health information that will change anybody that's willing to accept truth, the spirit of truth. That depends on whether their heart is willing to hear or open to truth. Because if they're on those pharmaceutical drugs for any kind of mental dysfunction, dementia, Parkinson, or whatever, they ain't doing no good. All it is a what? It's a treatment. A Band-Aid. Okay, it's managed. But Yahweh himself, being the creator and chief engineer and architect of the whole universe, including your body, he knew specifically what was needed to for this body for food. And food has a threefold function. First of all, it furnishes you with energy. It is a nourishment. It is energy, nourishment, And it's
Detox.
also a what?
Detox.
It also has a detoxinating. So when Yahweh created food, he already created detoxification right within it. Because you know, if you want to look at a chemical, a factory, look at the human body. The types of toxins that exist within this body, that, you know, when you eat meat, you know, one of the byproducts of break down meat is ammonia. You know you can't drink no ammonia. When you urinate, you know your urine smells like what? Ammonia. When you get the ammonia, you try to drink some ammonia. You see what I'm saying? But Yahweh has set it up. So here we go here. I'm going to hit this. We're going to play about 10 minutes of this. If you want a copy of this, we'll see if we get you one.
Is this once great nation, so beloved, given to us by our founding fathers, Washington, Jefferson, Adams, and the others, is it on its last legs, or worse? Is it about to be buried under an avalanche of economic misery? Many people are beginning to say so. Financial analyst Porter Stansberry put out a little book called The End of America, but it had a big idea that America was finished. Newsweek magazine said the apocalypse seems to be upon us, with incredible events happening, not only in the natural, but in the social, economic, and religious worlds. Some say there are coming dark ages, and ask the question, will America survive? It seems that some people are taking things in their own hands, and perhaps this is the reason why we're seeing such hideous, strange tattoos on people's bodies everywhere. The fact is, we are in deep, deep trouble. More trouble than you can even imagine. And on this video, we're going to look at the causes of that great trouble. We're going to ask the question, will America die? Who are its killers? Have they taken out a hit contract on this great country? What we know for sure is that more women, men are idle since the Great Depression. In fact, we are now in the midst of what has been called the Great Recession. And at any moment, everything could go tilt and all could be lost. Take our houses. We've seen the bust of the housing bubble, and we're experiencing the greatest fall since the Great Depression. In fact, it's worse than reported in the media. Not only that, the statistics show that half of all United States mortgages are effectively underwater. That means that the people living that have the mortgages in these homes owe more to the bank or to the financial institution on their mortgage than their house is currently worth. They would be better, in a sense, to walk away and leave an empty home behind. And millions have already done so. Are the banks kind about these foreclosures? Are they willing to help us? They claim so. But look at this headline that was in the London Mail newspaper and online. Bank of America called a grieving widow 48 times a day to remind her of her husband's death. The U.S. poverty rate,
They want their money.
is swollen. 46 million Americans now receive food stamps. And that, my friends, is amazing. And yet, we're told that Social Security benefits must be cut. Medicare benefits must be cut. Even as our Congress and our President declare that through Obamacare, 35 million people who cannot afford Medicare and medical expenses will be given free health insurance. And most of those 35 million will no doubt be illegal aliens. How bad off is America? Well, Bill Gross, head of PIMCO, the world's largest hedge Wall Street fund, says that the United States is even in worse shape financially than Greece, tiny Greece, that has technically gone bankrupt. The U.S. economy seems to be going from bad to worse, say the economists. And one of the most respected economists of all, Jim Rogers, says that we're nearing a cataclysmic type of financial crisis. Unfortunately, this is affecting so many of us personally. There's a recent article by Robert Powell on Market Watch, a respected online website for information in the financial affairs. He says, as it is now, many of us will not be able to retire until our 80s. We used to dream about retiring in our 50s or 60s or 70s. Now, he says, people have lost their pension funds, they have lost their savings, their IRAs are depleted, and they may not even be able to retire until they're in their 80s. So we are seeing a long, steep drop for American standard of living. People are miserable. There is something called the misery index. How miserable are Americans? According to this index, the worst in 28 years. Well, what is being done about this? It seems that our nation's political leaders and our bankers say the thing to do is to sell our national treasures, our wildlands, even our roads, bridges, our national parks. Is this what's behind the global bankers' austerity programs? That they will be allowed to seize public property of Americans? Meanwhile, student loans will eclipse $1 trillion before the end of the year. That's 2011. Imagine what it will be in coming years. It's already tripled in the last 5 years alone. Students owe up to $500,000 to the federal government. In fact, it is only the federal government now that is offering student loans.
Right.
The Postal Service could be by the Obama administration, and now everyone from transgenders to drag queens, I suppose, get into the military service. And the things that they're doing to our young men and women, 17, 18, and 19, who enter military service. And thus we have recently this incredible headline, the military secret shame, when men in the military rape other men in the ranks. No one wants to
That's
talk
like in the
about it.
joint,
Certainly
brother.
the government doesn't want to tell us what's going on. Can you imagine sending your young 18-year-old son off to the military, then he's raped by savage homosexuals and transgenders who are allowed in uniform by President Barack Obama? A disgrace. Our cities, towns, localities, counties are now suffering financially. Birmingham, Alabama recently announced a bankruptcy. In Cook County, which covers Chicago, taxpayers owe $108 billion, we're told. That's equivalent to $32,901 per person. Imagine, not only do they have their own personal debt, which is mounting and increasing every day, but the citizens of Chicago and the greater Cook County owe almost $33,000 each for government spending. One small city in the state of Michigan had to turn off its lights. It could not pay its lights bill. Well, is there a solution? It seems that more and more people, especially liberals, progressives so-called, and Jewish socialists, say that we should give Karl Marx a chance to save the world economy. Later in this video, we will determine exactly what following the rules as Karl Marx laid out has done for the world. So far, food prices are a problem. The government, you see, has a consumer price index, but it does not include the skyrocketing prices of food or energy for that matter. They are very conveniently set aside when the index is made up. And that has been going on since the days of President Bill Clinton, so we really do not know how much the galloping increase in prices all around us in every area of our buying lives. But we know, you know, and I know that the grocery store is one of the worst offenders. And it's not the people who own the food stores, it's the rich billionaires, the elite, who own the agricultural corporations of this world. As a result, thousands are lining up for food stamps, and as I said, it continues to increase in numbers. 46 million by recent tally. Millions added to the tally of the poor. Now, some years ago, I wrote a very fascinating and interesting and scary book entitled Days of Hunger, Days of Chaos. And I warned that these very days would be coming, and it would involve our food supply. And we would run out of food because of the incompetent planning, perhaps intention, of the elite. That day has arrived. In fact, while America has been the breadbasket of the world, some say that breadbasket is beginning to empty, and there is less and less food being planted. How could that be so? Why is that so? Does it have anything to do with the Environmental Protection Agency? Does it have anything to do with the environmental wackos and crazies who, like locusts, have invaded the land in armies of insects with minds that can think of only one thing: we must praise and love and protect Mother Earth, and to hell with farmers and the working people who need to eat every day? The green police are active. In Texas, a reptile, yes, a reptile has been found. The dune sagebrush lizard has been put on the endangered species list, and therefore oil cannot be drilled for. So the price of oil and gasoline goes up. Meanwhile, according to the environmental crazies in our government, dairy farms are contributing to so-called greenhouse gas emissions, and even though global warming does not really exist, these crazies, these communist socialists, the green police, say that dairy farms are contributing to greenhouse gas emissions because of the flatulence of the cows. And finally, the Environmental Protection Agency, our great defender, recently declared that hay, yes, hay, the same hay that is fed to horses and cattle and other critters by farmers, well, that is a pollutant. Hay is a pollutant. They're trying to put the small farmers out of business, and they're succeeding. Soon there will be laws passed and already are being drafted that if you grow your own food without government permission, without using the approved seed, without using the approved fertilizer for agriculture, without using the correct land that they tell you, you will be prosecuted. In fact, new legislation has been introduced that would prosecute with fines up to $1 million. What for? While using your own property to grow food. According to Pat Buchanan, I think he's absolutely right, the new climate bill has been introduced to stop global warming, which is a myth, of course, and we now know that for the last 13 years the world has been cooling, according to NASA statistics, but it doesn't matter to the crazies, to the socialists, to the communists. They're in the Barack Obama administration and existed also in the George Bush and the Bill Clinton administrations. The climate bill will lead to transfer and wealth and power to world government. Ah, yes. Agenda 21. And so we see the true reason for what seems to be insanity. World government. Transfer of your wealth and certainly any vestiges of power in our Constitution to a world government. But never fear. The elite have the answer for themselves. In fact, in the Arctic, they have built a great seed vault. While farmers around the world are now required by most countries to buy up seed from Monsanto and others who have inserted what is called the terminator gene in the seed. It can only be used one time, so they must pay and pay and pay. Meanwhile, all of the original so-called heritage seeds are being stored in a vault. It's called the Fort Knox of food. But the seeds belong to the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. And if someday a disease, a horrible pestilence is found in the seeds that Monsanto Chemical and others are selling, I call them the terminator gene seeds, and if they are forbidden to be used, then we will all starve to death. But they will have the heritage seeds, the seeds that God gave us with the original plants on this earth that are no longer available to farmers. We move from the food supply, of course, and the bad things that are happening in it, and the horrors that are being perpetuated, to
okay, now, you just got an introduction in the last half, and he talks about Red China. You can see if I get a copy of this, but he just gave you an overview of what happened to this great empire, and et cetera, but he goes to the second half of that. So